A lot of people don't understand that the purpose of a university or college degree is to show that you were able to show up 4 years in a row, do a bunch of assignments, and all that kind of stuff. It's basically the potty training equivalent of the corporate world, just to make sure that you don't absolutely mess everything up once you get hired. But do people actually care whether or not you have a college degree? Especially if you're going down the business path, is spending 4 years or more on getting a college education even worth your time? Well, that's what we're going to talk about in this video, and I think you might be surprised on the stance I'm going to take. Okay, so I'm going to be talking about this from the perspective of both a 9 to 5 corporate world employee and someone who's gone the side hustle, entrepreneurial, or self-employment route. So for the 9 to 5 corporate world, one thing you'll notice is if you look on LinkedIn or any job posting, almost 100% of the time there's a minimum education requirement listed. And the majority of the time, the reason that's listed in the posting is for the reason I just recently mentioned. Make sure you did your potty training and you're not going to do crazy stuff once you get hired. That's why it's there. But what I'll tell you is I have a bunch of stories of people I've met and worked with who never went the college route, got jobs that said college was required, but are still killing it and making a lot of money. Like making hundreds of thousands of dollars with no college education. So when I asked them, how did you get the job if they said you needed a college education? Like, what did they focus on? The answer is always they hire based on the person, finding the right person, not necessarily finding the right experience. The employers were more concerned about that person's personality, life experience, and the feeling they gave them on whether or not they'd be a hard worker and a good part of the team versus the degree or lack of degree that they had. I thought that was pretty interesting. And a couple of other real world examples of people like this are people we all know. People like Bill Gates, Steve Jobs, Mark Zuckerberg, Richard Branson. All of these people are pretty much billionaires and either didn't finish or in some cases didn't even go to college. And I'll just put a little disclaimer. I'm fully aware that in some cases for some professions, you have no choice but to get a formal education. Like if you're going to be a doctor, a pilot, basically things that involve some level of skill required to protect public safety, you need to go through the proper education and certification route. I get it. But what I will say is that for most corporate type jobs, like most of them, you really probably don't need as much education or any formal education, which goes kind of against the grain of how most people think of this situation. Take me, for example. I've worked almost exclusively in the corporate or startup world. I've worked for huge Fortune 500 companies. I've worked for small 10 people startups. I have not once been asked about my degree, my education, what grades I got, or anything like that. Not once. And like I just mentioned, with the billionaire route, if that's the path you're going down and you're going to start a hugely successful business like Steve Jobs or Mark Zuckerberg, nobody's going to care whether or not you have a college degree. So if I were to give a ranking to how much people actually care about whether or not you have a college degree in the corporate world, I'd say it's probably like a 6 out of 10 for most jobs. And for the types of jobs that, influence the safety of other people, like doctors, pilots, things like that, I'd say it's like a 9.5 or even a 10 out of 10. You absolutely need some sort of education. I get that. But now, this part of the video is actually where we're going to talk about the fun stuff, the stuff I'm most interested in. Whether or not people care about your degree if you're doing a side hustle, if you're an entrepreneur, or if you're self-employed. Do people give the slightest shit about whether you have a degree? In my personal opinion, I'm going to say hard no, absolutely nobody cares. And in my experience, the people who do seem to care, like if you have a potential customer or partner who's really digging in to what your educational background is and they're focusing on that, being super formal versus focusing on how you can help their business, help them grow, they're probably amateur business people, and in my experience, not the best type of people to work with because they are so rigid and process oriented, both in how they run their business and their mind, that it's going to be tough for you to have a successful relationship with them, in my experience. Because if you're working for yourself or you're providing services online and someone that you want to work with is just drilling you about your education, they're focusing on the wrong things. They need to be focusing on your services and how you can help them make more money. That should always be the priority. Like, why on earth would any of my copywriting clients who want to hire me to help them make more money care at all that I have a Bachelor of Arts in philosophy? It's nuts that if they would care, and I wouldn't want to work with them if they did because they're, in my opinion, a little off. Honestly, I'm here to help them make more money, and nobody cares about where I went to school. So my recommendation in this video is if you're the type of person who highlights your college education in your freelance business or your online business, I would tweak your approach to focusing on your skills or the value you can bring someone. You could take a bunch of practical courses on the internet to help you build these skills so that then you can highlight them to people. Skillshare, Udemy, all great low-cost options that can teach you certain industry-specific skills that'll make you an absolute weapon for your clients. Or for things like copywriting, I have a practical copywriting course that's totally free on this YouTube channel. That could help too. I also just wrote a book, an email copywriting writing prompts book. You know, there's low-cost options like that to help you learn value-specific skills that businesses can apply that'll help you stand out more than just a college degree that's sitting in my attic. I don't even know where it is, if I'm being honest with you. And this kind of all boils down from the saying, show, don't tell. And I think that was something Stephen King said about, how to illustrate ideas and scenes and plots in a story. You want to show the person you're working with. Don't just tell them. Show them what you can do. But basically, what I'm trying to say is that formal education is not really something many people in the self-employed or business world care about or even think about most of the time. It's all focused around skill sets and value you can bring. So my rank for how much people in the self-employed or make money online world actually care about college degrees, I'm going to give it a hard 0 or 1 out of 10. Nobody cares, so stop worrying about it. Anyways, do you disagree? Did this video ruffle some feathers? Well, if it did, let's debate about it in the comment section. Thank you so much for watching. Until next time, cheers, guys.